They're up there for ages. They're quite scared. They're stuck on this ledge, the two of them, this thin little ledge outside the building, 10 floors up. And they're sitting there. They're standing there. They're really frightened. And eventually the priest turns around to the rabbi and says, "Okay, you're right. We should have taken the stairs." And we can get a little... There you go. Outstanding, outstanding. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is the Digital Download Pop-Up. Those of you might have been with us before, and you know that this is the little show where we get together at the end of the week and we discuss everything that we've noticed in digital and social, and we share some concepts, themes, ideas, anything that we've noticed that we think is pretty cool. We've got a kind of loose theme that we build all this around, and this week's theme is creators, creativity, and we're going to touch on a concept known, or a real thing known as the creator economy, and what that means. So we've got the usual crew. Do we want to start with Tim? Do you want to do a bit of an introduction, Tim?
Hi, everybody. Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. I've written a couple of books about social media, and do you know, I'm really excited to be. I went and made myself a cup of tea just now, and I kind of skipped down to the kitchen to make it. It's the digital download.
It's the digital download. The highlight of your week. The highlight of your week. And you say you've written a couple of books, Tim.
Yes.
Are any of those being refreshed?
Maybe, yeah.
But he doesn't want to talk about that, so we'll clearly move on, shall we? Adam, good to have you. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Been a very hectic week. I'm Adam. I'm Tim's business partner and co-founder of DLA Ignite. And I went down and made myself a cup of tea, and I'm really excited because my cup of tea is in a Big Love Breakfast burrito.
It all ties together. It's beautiful.
There's a beautiful synergy to it, isn't there?
Synergy, absolutely. Rob, how are you? Do you want to introduce yourself to the folks out there?
Sure. Good morning, all. Rob Durant. I am just outside of Boston. That's why I say good morning. I am the founder of Flywheel Results, a proud DLA partner. And being as I'm in the States, we drink coffee.
Coffee.
You need a bigger cup, though. That's espresso, I assume, isn't it?
It's like a jug. Mr. Ross, our Scotsman abroad, we're claiming you. We're claiming Scottish with that surname, Lenwood. Lenwood, do you want to give us a bit of an intro?
Hello. Yes, my name is Lenwood Ross. I'm the founder and CEO of Accelerate. We are a DLA Ignite partner. I'm located just outside of New York City in the United States. Now, I'll tell you, Eric, when I was little, when I had hair, my hair was like reddish in the middle. My mother was, where did this red hair come from? What is this all about? Well, I did some tracing, and I really am. I really do have Scottish heritage.
Yeah, totally. We can tell. It's really, all the good bits about you are all the Scottish bits. So we'll be referring to Lenwood throughout the show as Hamish. Hamish Ross, our Scottish cousin.
Hamish McRoss.
Hamish McRoss.
Hamish McRoss, I like that.
Everyone's got all these. I'm going to share my drink. It doesn't look particularly great right now, but it was a glass of kefir with honey just before I came on air because I like nothing
what's
better.
Kefir?
A fermented milk drink full of bacteria and cultures. Very good for the tummy.
Raw chicken
Hard
is full of
pass.
bacteria and cultures as well, isn't it? Same sort of thing.
So a little bit of honey in there. It's high in protein. It's great for the old tummy. It's full of bacteria. But my wife opens it and screams and runs out of the kitchen because it does smell like milk's gone off. But I love it. So anyway,
it is milk that's gone off, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah, milk. Kind of. It's very, very fruity, and it fizzles a little bit on your tongue. Beth Alexander will know what I mean. She's a woman of the world, absolutely. So, as well as this motley crew, hi, I'm Eric from Crux. We're partnered with DLA Ignite as well. Usually get some of our Cruxy types with us today, but they're obviously too busy. Obviously got important pressing things going on. So as well as this motley crew, in a couple of minutes, we're going to invite on a special guest.
Hey.
We've got Lia Schmidt, to give her full name, Lia Parisian Schmidt, all the way from, I think it's It's either Saratoga or Sarasota Springs in New York. Where would that be, Linwood? Is that Sarasota or Saratoga?
It's Saratoga.
Saratoga Springs.
If we're talking about New York,
In between New York, Canada type thing, up north.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Who, amongst other things, in her breadth of experience, is a creativity coach.
That is so fun. You know, this whole time, because I've seen Lia in the audience for this whole time, I thought she was in Europe. I had no idea. Yeah, I thought you were going to say like she's in Portugal or something.
No, she's
in the next street to you, Lenwood.
Right
Next street. You can see her out of your house.
Absolutely. Hi, Andrew. It's great to have you.
It's the new thing that we're doing where we send people to other people's houses.
Ding dong.
Oh my goodness.
Download cam.
That is too funny.
It all ties together. It's beautiful. So we've got this crew here. We've got Lia coming on to join us later on, and she put out an excellent post today that I'm hoping she's going to share with us. If she doesn't, I've copied it and put it in my notes anyway, because it's bang on the money. So today is all about, what is all this noise about creators? Why should we care? A creativity coach? Yeah, absolutely. And she's gonna, and these guys don't know this yet, and I hope she's giggling in the green room, because she's going to do she's going to ask a couple of questions of this crew here and put you guys to the test. So that's what it's all about. So we're going to explore those themes. But first off, you don't have to look left or right too much. You don't have to delve too deep into the interweb to find out that there's a lot of chat about the creator economy. The wonderful Lee Jin wrote in The Economist recently, the creator economy, the platform and tools that allow creative individuals to share content, build an audience, and make money in various ways, is now valued at over $110 billion per year. There's an estimated 50 million creators around the world, and it's the fourth most sought after career amongst British children aged 7 to 11. Children at school are now saying, what would you like to be, John or Joanne? I'd like to be a content creator.
A train driver.
I'd like to be a train driver, yeah. Exactly. I'd like to be a lumberjack, just like my mother. So creators' cultural impact is eclipsing that of what we thought about as traditional media. So let's kick off today's proceedings in chat. Strictly Come Creating, who will get top marks, absolutely. And we've got creators in this audience today. Drop a question in if you've got a question about creator economy, creativity, what is a creator, how you create digitally and how it helps you in your business. Drop those comments in and we will pull them up. But first, let's get going. Tim, what is your understanding of, Lee Jin's just given us a great sort of opening from The Economist. What's your understanding and take on the whole creator economy and how it's affecting businesses today?
It's a great question. I think there's two elements to it. One is that the term influencer is now so overused and it's kind of more of a derogatory term, and so what's happened is that the influencers have become creators. So, or sometimes they use the term producer. So Kim Kardashian is now a creator rather than influencer. There's a program here in the UK called Love Island, which is where the people on there are all on Instagram, and they're deemed as being influencers, but they're also deemed as being creators because they're creating content. And I think that the second point is that everybody's now on social media platforms. 60% of the world's population, everybody who's got access to the internet in the first world and quite often the second and third world as well, have access to the internet, have access to social media. And what they're doing is that they're going on there and creating content. So platforms like LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, what they need is content for people to consume. So what they're doing is that they're actually paying people now to create content, and there's actually a bit of a war going on between the different platforms to actually pay people more.
Yeah.
And there's actually bidding wars going on between LinkedIn and Twitter and TikTok and that for certain people to, well, we'll pay you this, well, we'll pay you more than that. So there's this arms race going on in terms of the different platforms getting creators to create stuff. And different platforms want creators in different forms, and I guess we're going to talk about that. But that's how I see the creator economy, and that's what creators are doing in the world today. So you could say that they were creating something.
Creating something. Let's go to Rob. What's your take on all of this creator economy and creators and content and all of that?
To me, the creator economy seems like it's supposed to be a straightforward equation. I create in front of an audience, therefore I get paid. And if it's not that direct, you're not a creator. I'm not a creator then, because nobody is buying my writing or paying me to show up on the digital download. Tim, my check has not shown up.
I keep sending it.
Yeah.
But you got a free chair.
Yeah. But I still like to think of myself as creative and therefore a creator, because I'm using the various modes of content to connect with people.
I see you as a creator, Rob.
Well, I appreciate that. But if that definition is you create for direct revenue, I'm not. I'm using it to break out of my natural introverted self and connect with people. And
but I read something that you write on social media, and I'll go, I never thought of that.
Yeah, and that helps start the conversation, and that is that connection things. But that's not a creator; that's a conversationalist. As I've said before, I'm great at the middle of conversations. It's just very difficult for me to start them and end them.
I just, if anybody's wondering, Lenwood and Rob are piloting the plane today. How's the altitude?
It's all clear.
It's all just clear. In.
Well, we'll be
don't look for your luggage.
In approximately 15 minutes. Fold away your tray tables and buckle up those seatbelts. Adam, the whole idea of people being branded as creators and perhaps people assuming that means that they are not.
Yeah, well, I think picking up on something that Tim said about people being paid for this and there being a war between the different platforms for paying people. So a guy I was introduced to probably 10 years ago, a guy called Andrew Keane, wrote a book called The Cult of the Amateur. And he said that one of the major problems with social media is that there is no editorial function which is deciding the difference between truth and quality or lie and no quality. And I think that one of the issues that we face is that obviously the social networks are businesses, and what they're doing is they're promoting people because those people get engagement and other people consume their content, not because the content is factually accurate or educational. This is, I think this is a massive issue. You know, part of the reason that we have the challenges facing the world politically and from a society perspective is that there is no arbiter of truth anymore. You know, if you've got an internet connection, you can go and say whatever you want. If you get a following behind you, then you may well be paid for saying whatever you want, even though it has no more than a passing resemblance to fact or truth. And I think that the challenge is that people, we're all creators. Anyone that publishes anything at all is a creator. Yeah. You know, and I forget the guy's name, the guy that's the most successful guy on TikTok, the guy from Senegal.
Yeah, the guy that we spoke about. Yeah.
You know, who you know, here's Eric doing one of his paintings, and I sit there going,
yeah.
And I've got 100 million followers as a result of that.
Yeah.
And you know, that is in itself. I mean, he looks like a really lovely, charming guy.
Yeah.
But the question is, how much value is he adding in the relationship? You're the one that's creating the raw material. You're creating the painting. He's offering a commentary on the painting, which is actually not even a commentary which is educating the users. If it was a painting expert saying, oh, and look how he's applied a little bit of red over here and he's pulled that down across. Okay, I see that that's an educational thing.
But the value is personal, right? The value can be financial, or it can be pure entertainment.
Yeah, it absolutely can. But the question is, it's certainly in the B2B space. The question is, how does the poor unsuspecting consumer that's coming onto these platforms for education in many instances, how can they determine who's telling them the truth and who isn't, which thing is of value and which isn't? Because we see time and again people saying, well, you just need to go out there, shoot a video, create a little interesting background on the video, talk to the camera, tell a few jokes, job done. And that'll make you an expert in your field. And actually it won't, because that's not what ultimately people are going to put their hand in their pocket and pay for, is it? And we know ourselves. You train somebody and you say to them, and now you need to go and shoot a video. Exactly.
And Andrew makes a really good point that if people are being paid by a platform, then surely they're a corporate spokesperson.
Yeah. And they're doing it for the benefit of the platform, not for the benefit necessarily of the user of the platform.
So we lose authenticity.
Absolutely. Linwood, just picking up on Jodie's point, interesting discussion so far. I don't wonder if Tim could flash it back across the screen. Do people need to be tagged as creators? I mean, I don't think you're officially tagged by any platform or any institution as a content creator, but you produce articles, you produce film, movie, you produce lives, all these kind of stuff. You produce as much content as anyone I've ever seen. But are you branded? Do we have to brand people as content creators?
I don't think that's necessary. I mean, it's just a way of describing, I think, a particular phenomena that's occurring right now. That's, happening, on social media, primarily because of social media. And I think it's just another step in the journey, right? So influencers, now they're being called creators. What's happening, though, as a result of the digital technology is just, everything's getting democratized so that anyone, anywhere can put together whatever they're good at or whatever they want to do for entertainment and try to create an audience. And I don't think it necessarily matters whether it's being monetized or not. Right? Meaning that it doesn't matter that whether it does matter in the sense that I think if platforms are paying people to create, that I think could jeopardize the authenticity a bit. But I think especially in the case of LinkedIn, they're being forced to do that because not enough people are actually stepping up and creating on their own. There seems to be a little bit of a lag, probably because people are saying, well, what I do is like kind of Rob is like, I'm not really creating, even though he's writing articles, he's out here on the digital download, he's, that is creating. So I don't think people need to necessarily be tagged as creator, but I do think the creator, what we call the creator economy, will consume all other industries. It will become the largest.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, absolutely. On that point, over 830 million people today on LinkedIn, 310 million monthly active users. Only 3 million share content on a weekly basis. Think about that number. 830 million total users, 310 million monthly active users. Only 3 million share content on a weekly basis, under 1% of monthly users. Why is that?
Fear.
Exact word I was going to say. Fear.
Fear.
Yeah, there's a big reason why this professional, what's considered to be the professional or business networking platform, lags far behind the other platforms in terms of the number of people who are creating, right? Because there's this idea that, what I'm doing is not creating in that kind of a I don't know, it's really a very narrow sense of creating. But here on this networking platform, right, when you're writing an article and you're sharing your perspective on a particular topic, that is creating. That is creating. It's not, you know, I mean, it's not making a video. I mean, taking it to a different, you know, just because it's text doesn't mean it's not creating, right? I think people get kind of hung up on on what creating is, and that definition.
That's probably what, say again?
Shakespeare was a creator.
Shakespeare was a creator, absolutely. Tony Grisham, is he a creator? Yeah, probably. On that subject of what creativity is and how we deploy, employ, and execute this in our business lives, why don't we bring on our special guest, creativity coach, Lia Schmidt. Hey, hello, how are you doing?
Hi, Lia.
Good morning.
Hey, Jens, how's it going?
Very well indeed. Did you catch any of the previous chat about what we were talking about? Did you want to punch through the screen and say, let me on, I want to answer those questions?
No, I was waiting patiently in the wings.
You put out a post today, which I thought was lovely, about the conversation you had. Was it your son?
Yes, my 6-year-old son, Nico.
Do you want to tell us what question you asked, or what conversation you had with Nico? Because it was pretty good, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. So we watch Lego Masters, Minecraft. So I try to get involved and engaged in his interests. And then I thought, ooh, I have to be on the DD tomorrow. Let me ask a 6-year-old what he thinks creativity is. And I didn't really expect much, truth be told. And he said, creativity is dreaming in the daylight. It's how our mind thinks. Ooh. And I was like, damn, Shakespeare. And ironically enough, he's born on the Bard's birthday. So I was like, maybe a little bit of
channeling it on there.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, dreaming in the daylight. That's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah,
very powerful.
Fantastic. So we'll get to the point that you're a creativity coach just in a second. But that stat that I just put to Linwood and the team: 830 million total users on LinkedIn, 310 million monthly active users, only 3 million people sharing content per week, 1% of monthly users. What do you think's the barrier, if there is indeed a barrier? What do you think's holding people back?
Part of it is the platform wasn't originally intended to be social, or perhaps it was, but it was covered in the UI and sort of like the business veneer. So I think it's relatively, like, you've noticed changes in UI. They experimented with stories. They tried to signal to users like, hey, we're like the Insta, the Facebook, but we're a more niche community for business. So I think it's sort of going through its own transformation, and I don't think many people have realized that. There's also a tendency to be voyeuristic. Think about the days of AOL. You weren't always chatting in the chat room, but you were gawking at the conversations happening in there. So there's the fear component, there's the voyeuristic component, and then there's well, I have nothing unique to offer, which is I have nothing to say. And that's really, like, I think the core of the self-rejection of, like, I am not worthy to get my ideas out there. I'm scared of being judged.
So when you help people with that whole process of understanding, when we had our little prep chat, we were talking about the fact that we sometimes we'll come across a chief financial officer and who's been locked in pivot tables and spreadsheets and profit and loss his or her entire life. And suddenly we're asking them now to represent themselves and to be there in a humanistic way on social media, which involves creating content. And many times they'll say, but I just want to do a spreadsheet, just want to do a pivot table. That's where my safety zone is. So how do you help people go from the pivot table to being creative on digital and social?
Yeah, psychology, I'm sort of like a cross between a psychologist and a priest. Do with that what you will, right? And I think it's really getting people to let go of that, oh, I need to produce something. It's more of like, let's reconnect, let's understand who you were, who you are, how you've changed. And then I sort of like inch them into being creative by taking a back door of like, well, what did you like? Did you always want to be a CFO? Like, tell me about yourself, and having real human conversations. And then they have an aha moment themselves. And I'm like, great, tie this to your spreadsheets and make like a narrative. But it's sort of, people they borrow hides, right? And then they forget what animal creature they were. So it's like removing the hide and revealing sort of the truth.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I'm a CFO. I'm not creative. Well, what do you do in your home time? Well, I'm building a car. I make art. I love making pizza, and I like mountain biking, and I'm writing a book, but I'm not creative.
No,
Not
not at
not in
all.
any way. Not in any way at all. Not in any way at all. So, do you have any particular techniques that you do when you're working with someone? Do you have any particular go-tos that you use to try and take those hides off, as you say?
Yeah, I think being an active listener, asking questions, and also the energy you bring, like people just like to talk and confess because I give a non-judgmental vibe, and that is my sort of being. So I work very hard at that, is to not react and maybe put someone off. But I also do encourage people to step out of their zone. I do one exercise where I have people paint and then take a photo using reverse photography, and then do an ink blot test. What are the symbols you see? And then have them react to that, and then go through the symbology and help them tap into that unconscious or semi-conscious. So I try to bring like a hands-on tactile um, uh, activity too. And it's also a good distraction to get them to open up.
Yeah,
So
totally. Is this for you, and finding this vein in your life of being able to help people with this? Has it always been with you? Has it always been there from teenage years and even further back than that? Is this creative vein kind of been a big part of your life?
yes, I was in love with stories. I think humans are wired for stories. And I mean, art saved my life. I can, through the darkest days, it kept me connected to like my core, and it was a compulsion, and it was really helped me throughout my life. Like, I encourage, whether that's cooking, dancing, singing, building Legos, like having that thing that keeps you anchored to yourself, because it's easy to get distracted when there's notifications and sort of the minutia of life. So you need that space to be creative.
Very much so. Very much so. This is to the team and also to our lovely audience. I see we've got Alistair, Beth, Tara is in there. That's really funny, Tara, because we talk about working with Tara. I keep saying to her, we're going to break those coat hangers out of your corporate suit jacket, and she's having a laugh at me back there. She's because I keep saying, come on, the coat hanger's halfway out of your jacket. We're nearly there. It's still in there though, the corporate sort of coat hangers and stiffness. But she's doing absolutely great. How does on that subject of the CFO, the C-suite technical people, HR people, sales, marketing, how do we convert the kind of work that Lia's doing and other people are doing to help these people become creative? How do we convert that into modern business, and how does it present itself, and how is it done? How do we convert a technical person's creativity, and how do we play that out on social to help the business? There's a question.
Isn't the question that comes before that this is a fundamental skill that is required now and moving forward, and some people are able to and some people aren't able to, even if they want to. Like some people can have relationships and a good working environment with the people around them, and some people can't, and some of those people have to say, okay, well, this environment is not the right place for me. And I think that yeah, absolutely, you can everybody has the power to engage the people that are closest to them. So if you've got a network of 100 people or 100,000 people, some of those people will love you, and you're probably the person to unlock those people for the business and for your own development in terms of helping to the business to flourish and everything. And people often need help to move from where they are, I'm not a creator, I can't do this, to a place that they can. But some people can't. All the people that we've coached, there are an element of them that can't cook, won't cook. They either are not interested, I've been selling this way for 35 years, you can't help me, or they desperately want to do it and they simply can't. They cannot unlock that part of themselves.
Well, I would like to push back on that just a little bit, just as it relates to the difference between being a creator and developing a set of skills for social media. So you can have people who are creators but they're not necessarily doing it on social media. So just as an example, there are people who are in organizations who are subject matter experts who could create in the context of creating programming for within their organization. And they'd be totally comfortable being a creator in that context. And that would make them a creator. They would just not be operating in this context, which I think what you're talking about, Adam, I absolutely agree with you that there is a certain kind of person who is able to be a creator on social media for certain purposes, and if we're talking about B2B, it's certainly more than 1% of the LinkedIn population, right? It's probably somewhere closer to 20%. So I just want to make that just one distinction, that you could be a creator and not necessarily be on social media creating.
Yeah, totally. Lia, how can if business owners out there, business leaders out there, how can they harness the creativity of their team? What's some of the mechanisms that they can do?
Communication, right? I think there is this tendency, like we mentioned earlier, to sort of compartmentalize yourself when you're working in an environment, but having happy hours or workshops, structured times to sort of get to know each other in a really loose setting, maybe even doing prompts, if it's, not COVID times, or if it's appropriate to do that, doing something together that's outside of the norm. Like maybe it's, hiking or, doing wine and art class. So I think being in environments too that are conducive to creativity outside of sort of the barriers and shackles of roles and responsibilities.
Very good. So actually driving it into the organization rather than just seeing if it unfolds, trying to drive it. What you find funny?
The barriers and shackles, right?
Shackles, yeah, exactly.
But that's what it is. I mean, I think we're talking about something without really getting really onto it, which is that there is something about corporate America, certainly for the last 40, 50, 60, 70 years, that has snuffed the creativity out of people, that they're losing something in corporate America. And part of the process of tapping into these creatives is getting them to get back in touch with that part of who they are, the part that is fundamental to their humanity. Imagine, everyone has imagination, right? Everyone has that.
You're saying we're snuffing it out. Does that mean it was there and important, and now we're getting rid of it?
No, what?
You said we're snuffing it out. Does that mean that it used to be there and important, and we're sort of compressing it now? Or
yeah, I'm the most creative people on the planet are 5 years old. You go into my daughter, who is 5, I'm like, she's in her own world, and it's a very wonderful, imaginative with unicorns and rainbows and all kinds of stuff that happens in her world of imagination. She's creating constantly.
Yeah.
Okay. But by the time we become that CFO focused on, all of that creativity has just been through the educational system and into work. It has just been squeezed out. It is a lemon with no juice. It is, it's terrible. So it's the process that we have to go through now is to get people, you talked about it. It's like, oh, well, when I'm not being business Carl, when I'm just being at home Carl, I'm cooking, I'm building a car, I'm doing all kinds of stuff. So we gotta get an integration between those two people, and allow and make it okay for all of Carl to show up in the workplace.
But is it not just that your education, your formative years, your early work career snuffs that out? Is it not that society snuffs that out? You know, you live in New York, walk into Manhattan, look at those monstrous buildings, look at the subway system, look at the Statue of Liberty, look at the infrastructure that's put in place. Somebody had to dream that and make that happen. That was creativity. And, you know, and I say Manhattan because you said about corporate America, but it's the same over here. You know, you walk around and we are living with the benefits of what was done 100 years ago to the nation. Mm-hmm. And we're not doing that stuff now. Yeah, you know, we've got Google and stuff like that, which is great. And we've got Zoom, which is great. But those are little tweaks to, you know, the last great invention that took a visionary was the internet, wasn't it? So it's like everything is conspiring against people being that creator, isn't it?
Conformity and social norms are the antithesis of creativity, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And it's the title of his next book, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I you know, because when Adam was talking, I was thinking about New York, which is one of the most diverse cities in the world, and I think, well, yeah, for some people, all of this has all of the conformity, the whole way of operating and working, right? It has kind of snuffed it out. But then there's all these other people that have rejected that, right? And they're walking around with different colored hair and all kinds of stuff, right? And so I guess we need to be more like those folks.
Totally. When we hear Julia Golden from the CMO and strategist partner at Lego Group, and Susan Kunkel, one of the CMO at Deloitte, talking about the fact that creativity is now a workplace norm. We need those skills, and if you're in supply chain, if you're in HR, if you're in health and safety, it doesn't matter. You need to have skills, and we need to be putting those skills to work to leverage from that agency that those skills give us. Do we now think we're moving into a world where, hi, I'm John or Joanne, I'd like to apply for the job as accountant. Right, okay, you've clearly got an accountancy degree and you've got some experience. How creative are you?
Well, I think that's the point. You know, people say these headlines, creativity is now the workplace norm and we need to be embracing creativity. Go into a top 100 company and say, I've got a really creative idea. What we're going to do is we're going to sit around and meditate between 9 and 9:30.
Beat that out of you, Adam.
Absolutely. As we both found out, didn't we, Tim? You know, it's like you have an idea and you go, this is what we need to do. And people look at you like you have just shaved your head.
Yeah. Well, it's a change, right? The vast majority have not adjusted. They haven't adapted to this new reality that is, sweeping the world, which is that we've all got to get more creative. We've all got to get more collaborative because technology is making a lot of the routine and rote things that people used to get paid lots of money to do irrelevant. And so what is relevant is, what can you bring? What different perspective can you bring to help us to solve problems in a way that is different than what our competitors are doing? So that's what's driving the need for more creatives. We just need fresh perspective.
But back to that accountant example. You're not sitting in an interview as a potential accountant and being asked, what can you bring to and all of that? Can you count? Can you account? I mean, it's about the role and executing on those tasks. And I think of my own day. There are tasks that I need to accomplish, and then there are times when I want to create. And I will, especially in the afternoon when I'm pretty run down by that time, I am not in a space where I can come up with an article or anything creative. I just go to my inbox and hit refresh until the next thing comes in and tells me what I can execute on, because I don't want to have to come up with that. Coming up with something new and different is hard, and it's unstructured, and we're not accustomed to that. We're really accustomed to being told what to do and executing on that. And that, especially going back to that accountant example, we're not asking them to help us break down these new barriers. We're asking them to account.
Yeah, I will push back on that a little bit by saying that there are solutions that are needed even in the area of finance that accountant, if they're creative, may be able to help with. And so the issue is not are you necessarily like a creative with numbers, because we don't necessarily want you to be creative with the numbers. but are you willing to think differently so that when we come together in a group, right? This is not you being creative alone and having to solve the world's problems. It's you being creative and being able to collaborate with another group of people, or a group of people, maybe 10 people, or let's say 10 people with different perspectives, and you're willing to not just sit there and twiddle your thumbs, but contribute.
Lia,
and so that's
you jump in at any point here if you want to.
Sorry.
Throw an elbow, because we're not going to
Yeah, these guys. Linwood's known he's not allowed to have that third espresso before he comes on here. And he's had four. I was going to ask you about Lia, about Alistair's point. Once you get to the point where you run out of F's to give, you can start being creative. Remove the boundaries, and individuality is created. Do we need to get that point to that point where we have no F's to give anymore, or actually can we be a little bit more balanced about this? Just a question.
Yeah, I definitely went through that myself. I went to the I don't give any F's to sort of coming to a place of balance, right? It's more like I am not going to be personally impacted by what people think of me, and I will take what they say and grow from it, but it's not going to be like, I don't care, come, So I think it's important to, not let it impact you and hurt you and shame you and close you off, but also be willing to take it in and grow from it if it's constructive. So
very good, very good.
And I really like what Rob said about just sometimes your reservoir is empty, right? You just don't have it. You have the desire, but you have the will and you can't do it. I'm a big believer in structured creativity. I call it the ABCs. It's not my original concept, but for me, my A game is in the morning. It's 5 to 9 a.m., right? And then B, I'll do editing or like some less mentally taxing activity. And then C is like tasks, things that don't require half a brain, one eye open. So if you take that approach and are diligent and then put some exercise in the middle of your day, you're going to be a lot more productive and creative and inspired. And, everything from how you eat to what you drink to how you sleep really impacts that production cycle.
Very much so. Have you got any questions, Lia, for these guys, or anything you could put to them, or?
Yeah, I do. Where do you find your creativity? I'm going to go around the room, but we can start with Eric. Like, how do you tap into that creativity yourself, and how do you then translate that knowledge to somebody else? Like, what advice have you received? I know that's a lot, but have you received?
No, it's a good one. I think for me it was quite easy because I was accused recently of being a suit, not a creator. I was accused of being a suit who's trying to be creative, and therefore I'm not creative. And actually, when I think about my life, I've always been an entertainer from when I was a kid. I loved putting on shows and comedy shows and dancing. I loved painting. I loved making music. I used to play the trombone. I'm incredibly bad at the guitar. I'm not a guitar player. I mess around with the guitars. I know about 4 chords, and I can pull off a pretty good White Stripes replica type song, just with clangy chords. I like dreaming up skits. So I make videos that are light-hearted takes on important business topics, because actually my mind's full of those. I think I'm I'd love to have been on a comedy sketch show.
So Lia, Eric is very modest. So that painting that's there to the side of him, that's his painting. He did that.
Yeah, some people say it looks a bit like a monkey's been playing in its own feces in a zoo.
When he says he plays trombone, he was in a school orchestra competition at the Royal Albert Hall, and they came second.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, it wasn't first, but you're going to be pretty good to come second.
Yeah. So I think there's been a frustrated performer, artist, creator that was I wanted to go to the Royal Academy of Music and Drama. My father wouldn't let me. He said, you'll be an electrician like every other male in this family. So I went on the electrician route, and as what Lenwood said, the creativity got put in the back burner. But I think it's kind of easier for me because it's always been there. My whole life I've been sitting watching things happen in a train station and going, that would make a really good comedy sketch. So I now, later in life, now that I've shuffled off the chains of corporate life, I'm able to do what actually I've always wanted to do my whole life, which is play out my creativity on social for business purposes.
Nice.
Anybody else? Well, I've never seen myself as being a creator until I wrote my first book. And then one day, I don't know what happened, but I suddenly thought, do you know, this creativity stuff, I am a creator.
Mm-hmm.
And you asked about inspiration. I basically write notes on the left-hand side of, I still take notes on stuff. On the left-hand side, it is where I put the things that I'm going to use to create stuff later on. And that may be a digital download. Yeah, it may be, the last time I was accused of writing, I wrote down your comments stitched.
Experience?
Stitched content. Content is a stitched experience, because I actually turned it into, because all of the things I wrote down ended up turning into tweets.
Love that.
So it's getting that inspiration, and maybe getting it from some people. They may say things. There's just something that's happened in the UK. It doesn't really matter, but it has an impact in the news in terms of social media. And as soon as that came on the news, that inspired me to write about it, because it has an impact. Because two footballers' wives had a spat over Instagram that actually has a business implication. Yep. And so I've written about it. So that just gives you some idea about where I get my inspiration.
I love it. From life, from experience. That's beautiful.
Along those same lines, consuming content is one of the greatest ways to spark creativity for me. I will read something and maybe agree with it. Now I'll agree with it and share with others why I agree with it. More likely, I'll read something and I will question it. And now it's not stuck in between these ears anymore. I get to put that out there as that conversation starter. Hey, this is what I read. I completely disagree, and here's why. What do you think? And that doesn't feel creative, but that's content.
Who says it's not? Who says it's not?
My own personal measure, my own personal barrier, if you will.
See, I love these debates that we have. So we've all got a different perspective on stuff, and I like playing with ideas and concepts. And I love it when Eric's got a different view, or Lenwood says, I'd like to push back on that because actually you're wrong, and here's why.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
And I love that because it enables me to view it from a different perspective other than my own, and hopefully write that in the piece that I'm going to produce. And I think that one of the challenges that we often have is that it's difficult to acknowledge that everybody else is in a different place to where you are. They've got a different perspective on things, and therefore you've only got your own very one-dimensional view of the way things play out. And when someone else who's got a different background, different experience, lives somewhere different cultural characteristics, and they say something, you go, oh yeah, I've not thought of that. Mm-hmm. And actually therein lies the spark, which hopefully you can unlock your concept for other people. And I've always got a notepad open, and I'm working on half a dozen or a dozen blogs and posts at any one time. And oh no, this one I'll bin it, but that's given me an idea to do something else.
I
Very
really
good.
love what you said, Adam, real quick. It reminds me of like wave particle duality, right? So you have the unique experience, sort of like the prism, everybody has their wavelength, their color, but then we also have a shared experience, which is that wave, right? So we're different points, but we connect to weave a story and an experience. And that's why I think like while people have different point of views, we also have shared experiences, death, love, marriage, tragedy. So I think if we focus on what unites us, we can see all the perspectives.
Absolutely.
What was that? What was that terminology you used earlier on?
Wave particle duality. I did
Wave
a lot
particle.
of science back in the day. Yeah.
Tim Hughes, who doesn't count himself as a creator, has in the time that you've said that to now, has written 5 blogs on the subject and tweeted them. Fantastic, fantastic. Anything else for us? Anything else question-wise or comments-wise for us? There's a whole side chat going on in the chat here. Have you noticed?
Yeah, I'm watching it. It's a good makings for Tim's third book in there.
Anything else for us, Lia?
Yeah, I think I'd love to know sort of, yes, there's always the business sort of outcome, but what is your motivation for sort of inspiring this creativity? Like for me, my goal is very obvious. It's sort of transforming people so then they transform the world. It's sort of like planting that seed because business has to be done differently, right? We have a new generation coming to the power of the purse soon, right? And we need to shift. We can't be archaic. And I think we need to tap into that so that we can evolve appropriately for what's next. So how do you sort of like, what is your intent for doing this? That's mine.
I don't have one. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
It is, but my intent is, I saw a piece of content the other day that said, my content changes people's lives. I'm interested in getting our clients to use their content to change their own lives and their own target audience's lives. I'm not interested. I don't put the focus on anything that I'm doing is going to change anyone's life. I want other people to look over and go, what is that guy Doyle doing? I'm going to give that a go. I'm going to give that a try. I'm going to give that a try. If he can do it, I can do it. Anyone here that's listening, anyone out there can do what I do. And I'm hoping that by working in a certain way, clearly we train clients in a method and a framework and a process, but I'm hoping that by the very nature of the fact that there's some people that come here week after week, that there's some people thinking, well, if he can do it, I can do it.
Yeah,
that's what I want.
Great.
Yeah, some of that. There you go. There's some of it for free.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Carry on, Leonard.
Go on, Leonard.
I think that the world is actually suffering because there are too few people engaging in life. That they're just that the people who are actually running things are, I mean, I hate to say it, I think they're like the worst of us. I'm like, because the because the
hold on.
The people running things.
I mean, you know what I mean? I just look at our country, right? And we have you know, I don't want to go too far off on a tangent here, but you know, we have this Senate where we have 80-year-olds who are stopping the progress from going forward. And in part, it's because there are so many people who don't believe that what they do will have any impact. And so they're not engaged at all. And so what remains is what leads. And that is my motivator, is to help people to see that they can make a difference. And if they're willing to, and get in touch with who they are, their humanity, and today, more than ever, they can create a movement for themselves using social media, to change the world. So that's what's motivating me.
When Tim and I started the business, we said we want to change the world. We think that the purpose of our position as a business and as individuals is to encourage people to be able to recognize that, exactly further to your point, Leonard, that they have got a voice, they have got a role to play, and that they can do it. Further to your point, Eric, that, you know, if you can do it, I can do it. Actually, that's what we want to see. You know, if you see somebody that's incredibly beautiful and incredibly articulate and incredibly rich and incredibly intelligent making a success of it, that doesn't help you. If you see normal people like us using these tools through, you know, none of us would claim to be Shakespearean authors or Prince in terms of our musical ability, but all of us are able to go and have a voice on these platforms. And if we can encourage other people to do that as well, then they can take control of their own journey through life. And that's a crucial thing for people to be able to do, I think.
Lia, we're going to give you the closing word because we're coming into the closing few minutes. And Beth Alexander has put a comment up there that I think's just struck us all dumb. Can you put that one back up? The death of creativity is the death of humanity. Now that's a thumper. That's a mic dropper. For people out there who are sitting thinking, so I understand, I read about this creator economy. I work in a sort of regular job, but they're asking me to be more creative and I don't know what to do. What's the message out there to people who don't believe that they've got a creative streak and now realize that developing a creative streak would help their professional lives? What's your message to those that are sitting on the fence going, January, I'll start in March. I'll definitely start in March. What's your message to those people that are struggling with this?
Sure. I think know thyself, right? That is number one. And go to the past. You were a child once, you were creative, right? You had ideas, you had an imagination, and it's there. You just have to, you know, you're in an attic shining a flashlight. You need to find those sparks, right? So I think it starts with self-discovery. It starts with revisiting what you're passionate about, past and present. I like to think about, you know, my history, my legacy, like jewelry, science, right? And then I try to think about metaphors of how I can tie that to business and people. So it's like taking what's unique to you, your passions, and then infusing that in your work, right? So maybe, like, for example, supply chain or blockchain, right? I would love to see something with the gold commodity chain, something I learned about in college, right? Applications. So taking this niche knowledge you have and then envisioning it in the world in different industries. And then it's going to be pretty hard not to be creative when you challenge yourself. How can I see accounting through a astronomy lens or through an astrology lens or through an oceanographer's lens? And then it's fun. It's a practice. It's an exercise.
Outstanding. And lastly, is there a good resource that you've come across that's helped you? Is there a good book or a good video that someone could tune into that is your kind of go-to?
Oh, so many.
So many.
So many. I could put a comment with everything, but yeah, and I don't limit my sources, right? Like some of the things I read will be like classic lit, and then it may be a coach, a life coach, and then sometimes like one of the most insightful people I've ever read was like Henry Nouwen, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, who was a Catholic priest, and he wrote a phenomenal text of learning discernment and how to get in touch with yourself. And whether you're religious or not, it's just a great resource for prompting that, inner voice that's kind of silenced in the din of negativity. So, yeah, I have a list.
What if I do it and no one likes it?
Yeah. Self-rejection is a killer, right? Like, I think that is humanity's biggest problem is like self-rejection, right? If you think less of yourself, then you need to project that you think less of others to protect yourself. Some people take it inward and self-destruct, others destruct others. So it's really being aware of that and consciously kind of deprogramming that desire to reject yourself.
Outstanding. Lia, we've really enjoyed your company today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely fantastic. We've just skimmed the surface. We got about 0.01% of what you can tell us. So can we make a date at some point in the future to come back and have you back again?
Absolutely. And honestly, this group really pushed me to put myself out there. So I'm grateful to the DD people for being themselves and showing up and being early early morning folks like myself. So, or
yeah. Brilliant. And we're gonna refer to ourselves as the DD bunch from now on. That's
the
it.
DD bunch. Yeah.
That's
Dungeons
happened.
and Dragons or digital download. Yeah.
For everyone in the chat, please connect with Lia. She's a wonderful person to be connected with. Gives you a new perspective on life. You get to see all that cool stuff that she came up with. You get to see little posts like her and Nico chatting this morning and stuff like that. Thanks to Tim. Thanks to Adam. Thanks to Captain and co-pilot Durant and Ross. We'll be landing in New York in approximately 15 minutes. And thanks to everyone that commented today. I mean, my goodness, some of the stuff has been fantastic. I think the death of creativity and the death of humanity is a thumper. And also from Ed Hansen, maybe don't be sorry about being creative. Worry about being generous with your experiences.
Love that.
Shall we leave it there? Right at the top of the hour. I did my job. I got us to the hour, Tim.
Yeah, thanks, Eric.
Well done, Eric. Thanks, Lia.
Awesome.